something similar to this. Oh, I apologize. I am not sharing my screen. And I have the inability to share my screen. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, it would look something similar to this.
Now, where are we looking at having this? I'm not sure if you mentioned the park or not.
I am actually asking you for advice on which park would be a good location.
I'm gonna throw out the idea of Wildwood for
Wildwood?
this type of activity. I think that is conducive to multi-generational families that our Wildwood Park caters to, and so that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, Heather.
Is there a spot at Wildwood flat enough to accommodate 64 square feet of level ground at the very top, maybe?
That was some very quick math, George.
I will go and check if there is available space at Wildwood. And if so, it's very possible I could follow my project there.
Is there any problem with Wildwood would be the trees and all the roots? Because I walked out a good bit, and I can't think of an area that's an 8x8.
What about the place where everybody parks illegally? I mean, that's flat up there, right?
So they'll park their cars on top of the checkerboard.
Well, maybe this will keep them from parking their cars there. And
Yeah,
is that box for storage that's on the screen?
The box is for storage of the little pieces, or game pieces, or sorry, big game pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
Would that be secured to the ground as well?
Yes, it would be secured into the concrete.
Okay.
Am I hearing that this is passing at least the initial test of we might be able to move forward with it if you can provide a little bit more information as to where it's located, maybe meet up with or correspond with town maintenance to see what would be involved with them in mowing and edging, and the possibility of a structure being in the middle of a park and cutting around that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I just think we need to make sure there's enough square footage. And like Mike said, I mean, those roots can be a beast once you start having to go through them. That it's got some kind of dirt that he could get it, actually dig into to pour the concrete, et cetera. He could be out there for a lot longer than what he plans.
I think it's a good idea, though. I like the idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I actually like the board members that mentioned Wildwood. I mean, if it does fit there, I do agree. I think it kind of meets the.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
When are you thinking about installing it? Like, what time of the year? Are you thinking about this year or next year? Or?
It'd be this fall.
Okay, so
this fall.
And it's a 3-day project?
Well, it's a 2-day project, and then I'm going to come down a 3rd day about a week or a week and a half later.
Okay. Just for the final touches?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask a question? I'm not on the board, so I'm not certain if I'm permitted.
Sure.
Sure.
I just had a comment. I was wondering, I realize probably for cost, it's better to be level with the ground, but I was thinking if we want more people, particularly older people, to use it, it might be nice to be on some sort of a established table with chairs. I know that I've seen this type of thing in New York City at the park near the library, and they have like a little stone table and stone benches that are pretty frequently used. So I didn't know if that was just out of the question with cost, but I just wanted to comment.
We can definitely see what we can do about that.
Okay.
Hey, Jacob, this is Carl Munder, council. I know our public work person is getting ready to, sometime soon, getting ready to do a water feature over there too. I'm not sure where in the park. You might want to contact Brian Johnson too with Public Works to see where he's putting that. because it might work close well to the water feature too.
The water feature is going to replace the butterfly garden, and that's a winter slated project.
And when it's later, okay, never mind. Okay, just, just trying to think of where it could go to. I'm not sure what the level ground.
Yeah, I definitely want to forward Brian's information to you, Jacob, so that you can talk with him and get some ideas. Is there any other comments by the board? We're holding short of saying go ahead with it, but I think we need a little bit more information. Is that right?
That's fine.
One other thing, Jake, when you get a go ahead or think you're going to do this, just check with the Beautification Commission to see what their thoughts are on it.
You bring up an excellent point.
Because I've gotten some feedback a couple
Something
times.
that I'm going to hint upon in my
I would
comments.
definitely refer you to maintenance as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's. We're going a little bit over on our 5 minute. I appreciate all the comments that everybody's and input. Let's provide Jacob with some contacts and let him move forward. And is it okay if we ask you to come back and report next committee meeting, or is that too late for your time frame?
It's most likely okay.
Okay. Well, if that's all right, then we'll continue on with the meeting. And thank you very much for coming to present your idea.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe the next item is our approval of minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes? I know they were provided ahead of time, and we just had a couple of tweaks, which I appreciate people reviewing them ahead of time. Is there anybody that has any questions or points that they want to bring up? If not, I would suggest that someone make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Give a second.
Second.
Okay. There is time for any discussion at this point. If there's any corrections, if not, we can go ahead with the vote. All in favor of approving the July meeting minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Pass. All right. Straight on to Chairman's report, rolling along. As usual, this is a very interesting point in the agenda where I usually just make mention of where I've been, but this particular one, I wanted to make a point that I think is important for us as a commission to pay attention to. We've been asked over the last couple of meetings to come up with a prioritization for parks projects and recreation projects as it would impact our budget. And we've been struggling a little bit with that. I think we have a new method to handle that with everybody's input on a shared spreadsheet. I think we've been making a lot of progress, and I would like to continue with that. But I've been concerned over the last 2 months at how projects that impact parks seem to show up and occur without any comment or any, I don't want to say approval, but we don't hear about projects, some significant projects, until they've already occurred. And I'm wondering how projects like last month, it was the Village Gates access road. And in this past month, it's a pop-up park. These projects took considerable amount of effort, planning, and we're seemingly in the dark until after they've already been created. And I think that's a problem. It impacts our budget planning process. It impacts the parks directly. It's just odd that something that is directly in a park or has the name park doesn't get discussed with the Parks Department, or even just a courtesy communication to us beforehand. And it's alluded to by Carl when he says, you know, we should really work in conjunction with beautification. And I know that, Carl, you're here to act as that liaison between beautification and us and the town council. And I would just ask that all of us, I mean, you, Carl, and us, we would work more with the town council and with the other commissions to open up those lines of communication, because it was very surprising in the last two meetings to have projects pop up in our park without us even knowing about them. So that's my comments.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we will move on to the councilman's report.
All right. Thank you, Mike. The town council was held on August 3rd. It was a standard old meeting. Out of everything that was being heard, the two major things that were passed was ordinance 2020-1, the mixed use ordinance that was adopted. That is a new zoning classification that someone can apply for. And the other ordinance that will impact the parks in the long run positively is the joint annexation resolution 2020-41 for the annexation of the Harrison LaShire property. It was introduced and referred to the planning commission, which will be holding a hearing at their regular scheduled meeting August 31st. And other than that, that is it for the council's report. The next meeting will be held, I believe, September 14th. Hold on.
That's correct.
14th. Thank you, Gina. Due to the fact that the first Monday in September is Labor Day. So the time of the meeting will be 7:15 because should be holding a hearing. That's it. That concludes my report.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You made some very strong points. What can we do about that? What are our next steps,
Well,
if anything?
I can tell you that one of the things that I did personally was reach out to town maintenance and had a long meeting. One of the things that I'm sorry that I did not update it before this afternoon, but there's a lot of fields in the park projects spreadsheet that I updated, and a lot of information that I want to bring back to the board when we get down to that in unfinished business. So I think there's a strong communication between the board and town staff, but I think it could be better. On my part, I think that I need to attend the council meetings and be that voice in addition to Carl for the Parks and Recreation Department. I don't do that, and I should. If anybody else has any other suggestions and how we can improve communication between, we work hand in hand with beautification, yet I've never contacted and talked with Tina Swanson.
I was gonna, you know what, Mike, you know what I'm thinking about? I'm going back to this reference that I use often in my own professional life is silos of information, right? And so when you're thinking historically about silos and they're contained, but they all serve the same purpose, right? I agree with you. I feel like there are silos of information. I feel like there's a big silo between Parks and Rec and beautification. I do think that, and Carl, I'm not saying that's because you give your report with fidelity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that a discussion with town staff for more distribution lists. We don't get a lot of emails that, and not that I'm asking for emails at this point in my life, I'm not, but I would appreciate some more comprehensive emails and discussions amongst the different commissions and things like that, that I think that would be helpful. I'm even unclear. I mean, I'm going to go back to what you all, I mean, I know it's my pet project, but we talk about the benches, that I was advocating for Twin Arch Crossing. Well, Parks and Beautification paid for a whole bunch of benches throughout the town for basically the same purpose. And when we asked for funding for those to get them done, it was no, it had to be on parks and on recs and parks. And so and it was just kind of there was no discussion there, and it was kind of unclear to me. So, and I also think that, Mike, and you remember, because I know you and I attended, and I can't remember if anybody else did, so I apologize. But we used to have a liaison meeting. I remember we had that at the Health Pavilion. Mike, do you remember that? We attended that at a time when everyone kind of was able to get together just to talk. And that was very well attended, and a lot of us stayed really late and talked to each other to kind of get on the same page. And I know the Open Meetings Acts and things like that, quorums, it gets a little sticky, but I'm just going to go back to, I don't know the exact answer, but I think we can go back to town staff. And so I agree with you, Mike, and I'm going to stick with my analogy of silos of information.
I appreciate your comments, and I do want to clarify something. I didn't mention it in my comments. I think that both of those projects were excellent, and I think they fulfilled a need. The concern is really just being in the dark, and we're all on the same team. And when I walk by a park and then end up talking to a homeowner that this particular project impacts, and I'm on Parks and Rec, not just on Parks and Rec, but the chairman, and I don't know anything about it, that's a little embarrassing. That's all.
Well,
I don't honestly understand where all that money's coming from for those projects. We do have a budget.
Yeah.
And when I attend a budget meeting and Parks and Rec items are being cut left and right, I'm wondering where money for, a road, is it coming out of Parks and Rec because it's in park? Is a pop-up park? I mean, some of that's got to be coming out of our budget somehow, unless it just got found. I just don't know.
There needs to be more transparency, it sounds like.
But I'm sorry, I don't want to. It was meant just to be comments to get us moving forward, and I don't want it to just, to overrun the entire meeting. But I appreciate your comments.
Hey, Mike, just two other, since you did mention beautification, just two comments. That the Beautification Commission, I sent something to Barney, and he'll reach out to Tina. I believe I copied on you too about the homeowner at the parking lot at the tennis courts at Village Gate, that they're willing to plant the trees over there to help out with the view problem. And beautification would just like to request, if the bike trails move forward over at Windy Ridge, just try and include them with it too.
Absolutely.
Because that's one of their pet parks over there.
I just want to add one comment. I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I did invite Barney to come and inform you guys of the new access at Village Gate. And it was done on an emergency basis. So that's why nobody knew about it in advance. And it wasn't from Recreation and Parks budget. It was I&I, influx and inflow. So it was done because of, so I hope he conveyed that to you last month.
Yeah, he did meet and apologize that, there couldn't be more advance notice on that. All right, if there's no other comments on that, we want to move ahead with the town staff report.
All right, so first item on here is Heather's concern about the benches. They have arrived. We do have them, and they will be installed as soon as Brian gets around to them. I know he has a long list of items to get to, especially when it's grass cutting season, but rest assured you will be getting your benches soon. The next item is the TAP grant. I do try to keep you guys informed as much as I can. So this is kind of things that have been on the agenda, and I just wanted to, try to keep you, as updated as possible. There really isn't too much update on that grant project, the boardwalk for the Rails to Trails east of Maine. But because it's a federally funded grant, there's so many hoops to jump through. Right now, it's in the Maryland Dam Safety Review step of the project, which I never even heard of, a Maryland Dam Safety Review Board, but that is where it is right now. And I know everybody is looking forward to hopefully one day acquiring the CSX west of Maine. That is still in negotiations with our lawyer and CSX. So no real updates, but we are working towards that goal. If you have been out to Watkins Park lately, you may have seen that we did get the new dog park fencing. Brian installed that. There had to be a budget amendment at the town council meeting in August, and that was installed. And if you're watching your screen, you can kind of see a little video of it. It's a nice big area for our well-used dog park. This gives Brian a chance to close off one section if the grass needs to regrow or be reseeded or have any type of maintenance issues. He can still close off one section and still have plenty of room for the dogs to continue to play.
Hey, Gina, not to stop you, but just also the Beautification Commission is considering they're going to be planting some trees along that fence line too, to shade the dog park eventually too. So,
yeah.
So sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Thank you for adding that. I sent out an email to everybody about the Twin Ridge Elementary School fields. That is certainly an item of contention. I went through with staff here to try to find all the legal documents concerning those fields. I know we've always been under the impression that if you're looking on the screen, the town owns the baseball, softball field number 2, as well as the lower fields, the multi-purpose fields 2 and 1. Frederick County is disagreeing with that and saying that those 2 fields are actually jointly owned. When we looked at the legal documents, it was very hard to decipher the actual property lines because it's all meets and bounds description. So currently, Frederick County has put a hold and saying we can still continue to use the fields until our lawyer has a chance to review all those legal documents. So I'll keep you updated on that. But
hey, Gina, yeah, I have a question. Field number 4, that's the outer field. I have some documentation from Bob King from a long, long time ago that actually, when the school was being built, where that might be the same type of scenario where some type of joint ownership or something along those lines. Can I get that information to you just so the lawyer can review it? Because that goes back because there was an issue with scheduling the field probably a good 10 years ago. And Bob was around and Bob said, I have some old documentation. And it was like original paperwork that he gave me. So it's worth something to look into. I mean, I don't know the legalities of it. I know nothing about it. I don't recall all the details, but most certainly I would like to share it with you. Then at least provide it for at least historical purposes or maybe so we can use those fields.
Certainly, I'd be glad to take those.
Hey, Drew, Drew, do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was a long time ago, but I just can't remember the details.
Yeah, I can't remember all the details, but I have actually I was cleaning up my garage and I found some old paperwork and I kept it just because I kept them. I'm a hoarder when it comes to paperwork, when it comes to the program. But it's something Bob gave me because we all met over at the outer field and had a discussion on it. I forget who was the mayor at that point. Maybe it was Mayor Johnson. I'm not even sure anymore. One of the Johnsons. But Gina, are you working in, I can always provide it, bring it to town hall, or is someone over at town hall?
Yes, staff is here.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look through the actual legally recorded documents, at one time the town owned the whole property. So we sold off a portion of it to Frederick County Public Schools.
Right, no, I remember that, but let me just give you the information and whatever is the outcome is the outcome. But at least you would have that paperwork, just in someone else in town would have it outside of me. I'm sure someone has it, but Bob gave it to me a long time ago.
Sure. We should have it at least for historical value. He
I'm
did pass
sure-
on some paper.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you definitely do, but just something to refresh everyone's mind.
Sure. Any other questions?
Sure, one more. When it comes, you said we can still use those fields as the lawyer is going to review everything. Is there any update? Because we're getting ready to start utilizing some of those fields, and I don't want to start planning a season that we don't have access to those big field down below.
I'm afraid you faded out on the important part. What was it that you would like?
As far as a status update, I mean, the lawyer is currently reviewing the joint ownership. Is there a indication when that review is going to be complete?
No, but I haven't heard an update, but I will reach out to him tomorrow and see if I can get an update on that, at least see
Okay.
where he is in the process.
Okay.
And I'll pass that information along.
Okay.
Gina, and this is all related to COVID, correct? It's nothing outside of COVID.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make that point too, that it's because FCPS has decided while schools are closed, they don't want anyone using their fields, but it's not related to anything permanent. It's just related to COVID.
Can I just
Right.
interject? Can I just interject? I just want to, on the record, that I have recused myself from this conversation and have not made any comment.
And that-
Can we note that in the notes, please, Mark? Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
I think I had another point, Carl, but I forget what your last comment was.
It was about COVID, right? It's nothing.
Oh, yes.
It's related to COVID and the schools being closed and
Yes,
Frederick County.
yes, Frederick County sent a message out to everybody who uses their field. So it wasn't anything personal either between the town and Twin Ridge.
All right. I just wanted that out there too. Thank you.
All right, moving along.
Hey, one more thing, Jane. Have you heard anything from Carroll County? I have not heard anything. Okay.
And as Chairperson Mike Regal mentioned, we do have a new pop-up park. That was the mayor's project. So it really was led by him. And as you may know, he ultimately controls the budget. So I just want to point out that, I didn't pass on information because it was not really involved. I wasn't really involved with that project either, except for when it came to almost being completed and helping promote and, talk about it. And we do now have it available online for reservations. Unlike our pavilions, since we don't actually own the property, we just have an agreement with the owner to use the parking lot. We are not charging anything to use the facility. You just need to go online and reserve it, so we don't have multiple groups using it at once. It doesn't limit access to the public during that reservation, but just limits it again to just one group at a time. There's a whole web page on our website, and that's what you see on the screen, the image of, it talks the message from Mayor Pat, as well as a video showing the progression of the project, which is pretty neat. Also, if you tune into the iHeart Mount Airy show that we have the last Wednesday of every month, we're going to be featuring another video that includes the dedication ceremony. So you might want to tune into that show. Any other questions?
I'll just comment that I drive by that several times a week, and I believe it looks so much nicer with all the overgrown brush and that kind of thing. It really is it really took care of an eyesore problem.
Yeah. It was really nice too, seeing how so many people came out to help with the project. It was really a community effort. So that's some good news. I'm going to move on to a little bit of bad news. We did receive notice from the AARP Community Challenge Grant, and we did not receive that grant. As you were probably informed earlier this year, we do have $15,000 in the town budget, but we were hoping for an additional $15,000 for the grant. So I will be seeking some designs and be bringing that to the board for consideration for the $15,000 budget that we have. So it'll be a very scaled down, not a very fancy project, but it's something we can build on. Hopefully we can get a few designs to choose from. All this information is also on the agenda. If you click on the link, you can see the whole letter. So you don't have to read it all right here, but I just want to let you know that it's available if you want to look at it later. So as you were informed earlier this year, we did receive the Community Parks and Playgrounds grant for fiscal year 2021 for the Watkins Park Phase 1 playground. I just completed Phase 2 application for fiscal year 2022, and the spreadsheet that Mike created for us to rank our projects was very helpful for me. I don't always have time in between monthly meetings to present grant opportunities. Sometimes they come up rather quickly and we need to act on them quickly. And then, there's different parameters for different types of grants. So having that spreadsheet and having your feedback on that is really valuable to me. So if we could try to keep that updated as much as possible and kind of review every month, that will really help us with, deciding which projects we should pursue grants for.
And thank you. Thank you for filling in all that additional information. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. I know there's still more, so I will try to get to that, as much as I can.
Hey, Gina, quick question. Yeah. What was the grant total that you applied for Phase 2 here?
I believe it was 230,000 is 100% of it, so 75% will be covered by the grant.
Okay. So the cost of the project would be 230 then total for Phase 2? Okay.
If you'd like, I could look that up real quick.
Oh, if there's no need, Gina. If you've got, that's, I'm not looking for exact.
Too late. I'm already looking it up. Yeah, we're requesting $172,948.95. That's 75% of the total project. So the total project is $230,598.60.
Okay. So what was the exact one of 172,000 again?
172,948.95.
I just wanted to get that 95 cents.
All right.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. And if there aren't any other questions, we'll go on to the.
Was there any issue? You did have one comment about that project about requiring approval by the Board of Public Works.
Yes, that's due to be discussed at the September 2nd meeting. So once we hear about that, I will pass hopefully the good news on to you guys.
Okay. All right, please, all the way on to new business. And this one's caught me by surprise. I know I scanned over the notes here, but I'm a little at a loss for the pickleball concern, so it's coming up new for me here.
Okay, so this was posted on on the Mount Airy Pickleball Facebook group, but Gail Becker also reached out to me by phone and asked if there's anything we can do, specifically additional signage we can add to try to prevent any other type of balls being used with the pickleball net, because she says that it's showing some wear and tear. I did invite her to the meeting, but she asked me to just present the information to you guys. She did say that it was just a one-time occurrence that she's noticed, but I do have on my next slide potential help for that situation, and that's just some new signage that says, you know, the pickleball nets at this court are designed for pickleball use only. Heavier balls, including tennis balls, may cause damage. So again, these are in your notes. I don't know if you wanted to discuss this now, to see if you think this sign would be appropriate, if you thought it would be helpful.
I have some thoughts on the sign. Does anybody else?
I just think maybe the, for pickleball use only, heavier balls, including tennis balls, will cause damage. If that's in fact what will happen if they are used. That's just my opinion. I don't know if they do or not. I don't play pickleball or tennis.
Has town staff noted that the nets are damaged, or we're just going off the observation from a resident? Not just, I mean, it's an important observation, but has town staff said that they're springing holes in them?
She didn't say holes, and I haven't noticed holes in them either, but there's a little bit of wearing on that top piece of tape that you can notice if you look at it.
So I'm going to give my opinion. I don't know if this would come out of Recs and Parks Board, but we have spent an extreme amount of money on pickleball very generously over the past 18 months through our budget. So I would request that town staff go out and take a look before we spend more funds on signage or replacing nets at this point, and it get added to our priority list to see where it lands. I don't want to do a knee jerk and spend a whole bunch of money based off of an observation and a guess and a drive-by.
Well, at this point, we're not talking about replacing the nets. We're just asking to put up a new sign. And I know we had mentioned in previous meetings adding a sign that kind of directed people to the rear court as well. So that is also in the signage, just something else to consider.
For my comments, I like the sign a lot. And I still have some questions about whether people are even using that back court. It is not lined for pickleball, so that's an issue. And we have that extra net, and I guess that's where that other net is slated for. But I'm interested in whether any other pickleball players are going to go back there and use it. Some comments made by another individual, and I'll leave out their name, said that, you know, this pickleball is really a social sport, and they're getting together. This is one of the reasons why they're asking for a shade, because, you know, and they want to be able to sit down there because it's a big event, and you know, people are sitting along the outside and watching and, you know, and socializing. I have a strong feeling that throwing a pickleball net over in that back court, it's just not going to get used. Just my thoughts. I think the sign would be great, though. I don't know if there's any way we can test it out with some temporary lining or something. I don't know. The sign would probably help direct it, but I almost have a feeling that the sign's not going to, at least that part of the sign, isn't going to direct people back there because they just they want to be around other people playing.
Hey, I have a question for Gina.
Go ahead, Mark.
Have there been a lot of complaints about the pickleball nets, or is this the first one?
You mean as far as the wear and tear?
As far as the wear and tear, yes.
No, this is the only one that I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, Gina, the only other thing I can say about the pickleball nets is I drove by, say on a weekend, I might say beginning part of the summer, it looked like one of the wheels had fallen off or broken off of one of the nets, but I'm not sure if they fixed it. It looked like they fixed, the Public Works fixed it, so.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned it, I think I did hear that.
Yeah.
That a wheel had been fallen off, but it could be easily fixed.
Okay.
Can I ask
One other comment just to what Heather said. I would be interested in knowing exactly how much we spent on pickleball, because I think overall in the grand scheme of things, considering the facility we had already that we're using for those three courts, it was a relatively small amount of money that we spent on pickleball. Now it might change if we're going to have, if we're including a bunch of new additional pads and seating and now a shade. But I think, in relative terms, to add the amount of functionality that we have, 3 of those inexpensive nets and some paint, and then some benches. I don't think there actually has been very much money spent on pickleball.
Did we pay for the benches or the beautification? Remind me.
I don't recall.
I can't recall either.
Would the signage come out of Recs and Parks budget, or would it come out of Public Works?
It would come out of Recreation and Parks.
Can we get so I'm going to make a motion. Can I move that we get a total on the signs and then come back to discuss?
I take it one step further and we address what Heather said. I'm not putting words in your mouth, Heather, but from the standpoint of, inspecting any type of damage that's there. Is there actually damage? Was it caused by tennis balls? Is it possible for a pickleball to do something? I mean, I definitely appreciate the concern of people reporting to us, but we may want to do a little investigation before we start going down the path of putting signs up or really going crazy over this.
And I'm also going to go with my, I say it almost every single meeting, Facebook concerns to me are not legitimate. There's a way and a place to make those concerns, and a discussion on Facebook to me is not legitimately expressing concerns. So that's social media. It is not. So I always have, and I know I'm a stickler about it, but I always have an issue about doing a knee-jerk reaction to something that somebody posts on social media. If I did that every day, that's all I'd be doing. And so that's money out of our budget, which is limited, that we've already set priorities for. So I'm going to go back to my motion. Mike, can you help me with that, please? Because I did make a motion.
The motion on the floor is to get an estimate for the cost of, I would assume, 2 signs.
We weren't told how many, were we?
No, I didn't mention how many. I was just thinking 1, but I can tell you approximately there are $120 for the metal street signs.
Yeah, it's not a huge expense. The only concern that I had, I'm breaking protocol here. So the motion on the floor is to get the estimate and then come back in at the next meeting and make a decision. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wait a second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Discussion. The only thing that I was trying to point out, because in general, I think that signs like this are very good, and the content on this sign just to set up expectations, especially for the weighting, the third line, first come, first service, first serve basis. I mean, the bulk of all of the points I think is valuable, and for $120, in my opinion, it's kind of, if it wasn't coming out of our budget, I think it would be, a slam dunk. The concern that I have is if we're going to be, and I know I was the one calling for, directing people to that other basketball court, but based on some other, comments that I've heard from people, I don't know whether it's going to be used, and we don't have any lines back there. So that particular line I was concerned about before we get it all inked up. Certainly a heavier ball is going to be a problem for something that's not anchored down. And those wiffle balls are not going to do the damage that a heavier tennis ball is going to do. I don't even need to go out there and take a look at that to know that that's the case. But if it was only a single incident, then I don't know how much that's going to be a concern.
I'd like to interject that all these nets, whether it's a basketball net or a tennis net or a soccer net or a pickleball net, they've all got a lifespan, and we know that over time they're going to wear out. So I think to know what the lifespan of those things would be, so they could be budgeted for future years, like in 2022, we can plan on replacing the pickleball nets. In 2023, we know it's like tennis ball nets, or whatever. Because those things do have a limited lifespan and they are outside in the elements. And I think for future budgeting purposes, to know what that lifespan is, so we can better predict what those costs are going to be, so we don't get kind of blindsided about, oh, all of a sudden we need a new pickleball net. Well, we expected that to happen in 2022 because that's the lifespan of a pickleball net, if that makes sense.
Thank you for bringing that up, George. One of the columns that I did add to that spreadsheet, and it sounds like based on town staff comments and from feedback that I'm getting from the different board members here, that we're going to continue updating this spreadsheet and use it as a guide moving forward. It's not just going to be a one-time thing. One of the columns that I did add was estimated lifespan, because I think it is important to be able to budget based on how long these things are expected to last. I do have some updates on that particular line, that particular column, when we get to discussing that. So that's a great point. Anything else? Do we on comments for or discussion for the motion? If not, we want to go ahead and vote. No comments on the wording or anything?
Just the only comment I made earlier, that it will cause damage instead of may cause damage. If that's approved by the rest of you guys, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me.
So are we going ahead and the motion is to get the cost? We already have the cost. Are we just going to table this until the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we ought to take it for one more meeting and that's my opinion, just let someone, go out, see if it has actually done damage, see if it, I feel like someone could, talk to people that are, playing pickleball and see if, is this a common thing? I think even if it's not that common, even if it's very rare, I think the signs are a good day. I like the signs as well. So, but I don't think it hurts to wait 1 month before we, pay 120 or 240 bucks for these.
My point is just we don't have any lines for the pickleball court, and unless we're just going to plunk a net back there with no lines, we need to do that. And we haven't done that.
Mike, would it help if I amended my motion to say that I move that we wait for a town report on estimated costs for signs, repairs, and lining of the back court to be approved like it should be through the budget process as an emergency expenditure at our next meeting.
Okay.
You can take out the as it should be. I'm sorry, that's.
Well, we do have a line item for things such as this already budgeted.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stick with, and I don't know if we're going to discussion or not. A lot of money, I feel like it's a lot of money, time, because I'm also looking at labor expenses that when you equate to what our folks make per hour and the time that they're using to line these courts and do these things. So I'm going to stick with my motion, which is that next month that we vote on moving forward with estimated costs for repairs of nets, signage, and additional lining for the pickleball courts in the town of Mount Airy.
Okay.
Again, sorry to interject, but the court lining is already budgeted and scheduled. It's just that Brian he scheduled that for the fall when the weather is more temperate.
Okay.
I'm gonna stay with my motion, but thanks, Gina. I know.
Okay. So basically, we want to postpone until we have the timing of the pickleball courts. Is that what I'm hearing? I still think it's a tabled motion, what I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because you wouldn't want to send people back there and then there's no lines and they don't know that the lines are going to be put down a week later, and then for the rest of the time they see that on the sign, they say, no, there's not a pickleball court back there. The sign is not accurate or something. So I think we should wait on the signs until there are actually lines back there.
Good idea.
How long does it take to order the signs, Gina, just so that we can move on?
Yeah, it usually takes a few weeks.
Takes a few weeks. And
Yeah.
we don't expect to have lines back there till later in the fall. So I think this is safe
Well-
to, what?
Yeah, I was just going to say, probably next month is what I would predict, September.
Okay.
What is our line item for the lining of those courts in the back? How much is in there? Do we know?
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
believe
guessing,
it-
wondering
yeah.
how much it costs, and if did we include, staff time in that as well, in that budget number? Is it just, it's going to cost us $4 for paint and tape, and we left it at that, not say, okay, it's going to take, 3 guys 6 hours to do that at, $20 an hour plus overhead.
The line item is for $500, so I think that includes everything.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Is
that's
that
already-
is that line item just for pickleball repairs, or what's that line item actually earmarked for?
Specifically to reline the pickleball court.
Okay,
Or
thanks.
to line the pickleball. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gina, would it be possible, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, that when Brian, and his guys goes out there, he can give us a tracking idea on, it took us this many hours of labor. So we're not just putting $500 out there to get it done. We actually have an idea on, it might only cost $300, but it might cost $700. We have $500 budgeted, but what is it actually costing us? You know what I'm saying? Like a real number, like the actual number was, it took us this much time and this much material to get that done. For future budgeting purposes as well.
Yeah, I can see if I can get that information from him.
And
Okay.
I guess just to kind of explain my thought process a little bit more, because maybe I'm not just being transparent enough, is that, and I really had some clarity as we looked through that prioritization chart. Every time that we sit as a board and we recommend chipping away at our budget, we impact bigger projects that are our pipe dream, that they're our long game, right, for this town. And every time we sit down as a board at a monthly meeting and say $120 for this sign, or $200 for this, or $300 for this, we are chipping away at our long game of improving, of making more amenities available to our residents in this town. It's that chipping away that is kind of bothering me. And yes, it's only $120 tonight, but this happens over and over again. And I think it's worth taking the time to budget for it, especially since we've done our priorities. That's my point in making, and that's why I keep on making a motion to get accurate information, see how it impacts our budget before we just blindly approve expenditure of monies that's going to impact what we can provide this town in the long run. Because
Okay.
I think that is being fiscally responsible for the town.
So the motion on the floor is to get a overall cost of the signs before approving at the next meeting. Is that correct?
It was signs, repairs, and repairs. So because we were throwing that net in there too, and I don't want to see that just to show up like we need just to replace a net. So it was signs, repairs, and we could throw in that painting also, even though we have the line item.
Okay, so a
That's the
total
motion.
cost, the revised motion is the total cost of the signage, confirming that the lining is already budgeted or paid, or is it also in a new budget line item, and then any potential repairs, which we don't know about. And that information will be reported at the next meeting so that we can make a decision on whether to go ahead with ordering the signs. It may delay the signs a little bit, but that's okay. Is that the correct motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And that's already been seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay. I think we've had plenty of discussion on it. I want to go ahead and open that up for a vote. All in favor of the motion, vote aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we have it next meeting.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Gina, for getting that sign up. I do like it, and there's only like maybe some little tweaks that were suggested by the board. I'm sorry that we're going to delay it a little bit, but I think it's for the right reasons. Moving on. This is a new park project request. I believe this is in Councilmember Munder's court.
Yeah, I was after the discussion at the last meeting about the at the Summit Ridge baseball court, baseball fields, the balls going in. I was wondering if we needed to add some fencing over at the Twin Arch soccer fields due to the new Brittany Manor development. I took some pictures as Gina added on this slide here. The first one with the houses is the lower field. So you can see the houses are pretty much right up next to the field. There's very little backyard there. And just to maybe add to the, unfortunately, add to the maintenance list for Brian is that the top, I want to say the support on that fence is beginning to come apart. So that might have to be fixed. The other two are photos from the one on the upper right hand of the slide is looking down from the end of the Twin Arch soccer fields parking lot down into the new development. And the same thing with the other one. That's the end of the parking lot, and those are lots where houses will be built. So you're only looking at maybe a 6-foot change in elevation there. So we might want to consider, putting into the budget for next year, fencing along there. As I asked Scott prior to the meeting if he thought, I'm not too sure of the power of the kids that play there. If there's going to be a lot of balls going over there or what. But I can also check with Barney and bring it back next month to check with Barney to see if any fencing was included in the public works agreement with the developer.
Yeah, I would like that. And since we're talking about fencing and we talk about fencing regularly, I wanted to bring in a couple of additional items there.
Yeah.
And I've noted it on the spreadsheet. So when we have these discussions in the future, hopefully it's right at the top of our minds. A general estimate for a linear footage cost for an 8-foot high black chain link fence, like what you're looking at there, is about $40 a foot. And about half that for the 4-foot high, like they're using at the dog park.
Yeah.
And for lifespan, you're looking at 10 to 15 years for that type of fence before major components need to be replaced. And for some additional intel for what our maintenance department does for fencing, they have two individuals on staff that over the course of a year are responsible for tightening up fencing all around all of our different parks. That's a regular job for them, and it's something that has to be redone every year because the weight of the chain link fence starts to sag. And one of our line items on our project list is replacing chain link fencing at that street hockey pickleball court. And that's just what happens over time.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want, constant, I don't want Scott's program or any other program, constant complaints coming to the board of soccer balls going down into the people's backyards. I'm sure there'll be some trees planted by the developer, but fencing and other things I'm not sure about. So trying to get ahead of a problem instead of getting behind it.
No, I think that's looking ahead.
Yeah, you have a lacrosse plant over there too. So, I mean, lacrosse balls, they're thrown, they can be thrown pretty far, just as far as a soccer ball. But it couldn't hurt just to think ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because last we want to, but I agree with what Mike was saying as well, or someone was saying earlier, that it might be part of the development process altogether.
Now, the lacrosse practicing on the lower field, Scott, do you know?
They were practicing in the month of July on both. They requested access for both.
Okay, because just a heads up, because those lots over there are selling fast. Because I think they're already in section 2, so I think they're going to be coming up behind the park eventually soon.
So should we note that that there's lacrosse usage on that court as well?
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they requested it through Nancy, and we were not using it, and we were being. I mean, I'm always cooperative. If we're not using the fields, most certainly we'll turn them back. So I think the Renegades, I think it was the Renegades they were using it for the month of July.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll check with Barney and inform you all next month of if it was included or if it's at our cost. Because there's also in my email, I think too, I'm not sure if we're aware of it or not, but that parking lot at the end of it, of Twin Arch, will be an access point to the development. So we may want to also start considering some type of, or at least that's what I heard last, was some type of speed humps or speed reduction in the parking lot.
Has that been discussed with Streets and Roads? Are they aware of the overall street plan there?
I don't know. But I asked Barney about it because I noticed when they were grading, they had like a run up to the parking lot, and it kind of noted, I believe he indicated that it was going to be a permanent entrance to it. I'm not sure if gated or open, but there will be some type of permanent entrance there, I believe.
All right. Thanks, Carl. I think that's excellent foresight. It's item number 37 on our project listing now.
Hey, the concerns of a growing town, Mike. We'd rather have these problems than not at times.
All right, thanks, Carl.
Thank
Next item is Mog Mile. Did I get that right?
Yes, the organizers contacted me about gaining permission to have their event at Watkins Park. So I'm just passing on the information to you. The event information is on your screen. There's also more detailed information in the agenda packet, but it's October 3rd at 9 o'clock. I stress the importance of the COVID restrictions and keeping 6 feet away and masks and all that. They were more than willing to abide by our rules. They said that some people in the same household can leave at the same time, but everybody else will be staggered, so we can keep they can keep the social distancing. But all the details here, they're expecting around 50 participants. Not sure how long it will last because of the staggering. They won't have any food. They are going to have it rain or shine, but they plan on keeping on the path. So is there any questions?
But then just a couple here, Gina. They're not going to be following the 5K, right? It's just in the park itself?
Yes, they're just doing loops around the park.
Okay. And I know you're on the emergency response team calls too, but do they have to get anything from the health department saying that they're okay to do this? Any plans or anything? Do you know?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I can look into that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just maybe if you talk to them, mention it to them, maybe that just to be sure, check with the health department to see if they need any approvals from them to hold it. Since it's a large group, I doubt it, but you don't want someone to report to the health department that there's a unsanctioned group or whatever at Watkins holding this event.
So the slide doesn't mention that it's at Watkins. I assume that's the case, right? And it says 50, expecting 50 participants. It's not a huge group. Okay.
On the slide, I didn't put all the details, so there are more. But yes, it is at Watkins Park.
It looks interesting.
Are they?
Yeah, apparently it's a national.
Tonight at this meeting? Or is it something
I'm
that
sorry?
with additional information we can do at the next meeting or what?
They want, I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything you said, but I think you said wait until the next meeting. But they want to be able to open this up for registrations. So
Okay.
I think it doesn't sound much more than a 5K, so I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll third, Heather. I'll let you go second this time.
Thanks, George.
Any additional concerns? I assume that this is has an insurance coverage. The group has insurance coverage.
yeah, I'll make sure I get that from them.
There's no other discussion or questions, then we can open it up to a vote. All in favor of the October 3rd Moog Mile event at Watkins Park, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any approve? Any approve? Any that disapprove? Okay, it passes then.
Hey,
Okay.
Gina, sorry. I know the motion's passed, but you also might just want to mention, like, it'll be allowed to be held at the park as long as the governor still allows these type of events in public. So, hold on for a second. Yeah.
Pending state and federal regulations. How about that?
Sounds good.
Right, on to unfinished business, field allocations. So what do we have in an update on field allocations, considering all of the disruption from COVID? I know there's been a lot of movement from our athletic organizations.
Okay, can you all hear?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you, Nancy.
You go ahead first, Gina.
I just wanted to introduce you. Nancy's going to answer. Nancy Hernandez, drum roll, please.
Nancy.
I did read through the minutes from the past meetings, and in terms of reservation requests, it looks like the only thing that I could find indicated that reservations needed to be submitted 12 months in advance. Although I did also in more recent meetings, we discussed how sometimes reservations need to be provided in October, but then also spring reservations in March. For the most part, there haven't been that many conflicts in the fall, so I think 1 year time frame probably would work. We do have one conflict that I haven't been able to resolve, and that's with the Renegades lacrosse team. Scott was mentioning them earlier. Mayo was nice to let them use some fields when they weren't in use during the summer, and they were asking for fields again during the fall, but I don't have anywhere to put them, and I'm not really quite certain what to do about that. In terms of the other issues, mostly there was a few other conflicts with baseball fields, but we're getting those resolved. I've been in contact with Pat Kearns and also with the new teams that are requesting space. One of them is a girls softball team, and it looks like we're going to be able to get those worked out. There was one additional request for a multi-purpose field at Twin Ridge, and that was by a scout group that wanted to shoot off water rockets. And I've suggested to them that they might try using that grassy area over in Windy Ridge, or perhaps the big grassy strip in Watkins Park that's between the road and Maryland 27. I'm just not sure how high the rockets shoot, so I recommended that Windy Ridge would be preferable, and I'm waiting to hear back from them about that.
That was water rockets, Nancy?
Yes, they want to have a public event on August 29th and shoot off water rockets. I don't really have a lot of details on what that is. I'm waiting to hear back.
Now I'm just, okay. It's just.
We've shot them off before with scouts. They usually just involve a a 1 liter plastic bottle that you put water in about a third of the way, and then you pressurize it. They don't get up too high. It's the same thing.
Okay, great. Well, then I think that they should be able to use either the Windy Ridge space or the space there in Watkins. So they seemed open to that. They're just trying to find out a few more details. And then I also emailed them again today. But in terms of field allocations, fortunately, I guess Maya has been pretty much juggling their schedule on their own based on their field usage. Pretty much have the fields primarily reserved for Maya, and then the baseball fields primarily reserved for County. But we're just trying to squeeze in those few additional requests. I guess I'm just wanting direction on, is it okay to just continue with the 12-month scheduling timetable, or did you want the teams to be submitting for fall and then again for spring now that we're getting more and more requests?
Hey, Drew and Scott, I want you guys to chime in here, because I know that this year is a little bit different in how things are being, dropped and then filled in. And I want to make sure that, I thought the discussion last month was about, coming back with that overall process, that we do have a process for when certain organizations, based on whether they're nonprofit or for-profit, in town or out of town, and we had a full schedule for when those different organizations would have to submit their rosters, and we would allocate certain groups first. And I don't think that's coming across here. I just want to make sure that you guys are able to, if we've lost that whole structure somewhere, if we don't have that that outline anymore, that we need to bring it back and formalize it and put it somewhere where we don't lose it.
Yeah, you're correct, Mike. The Maya, 4 County, the town organizations, they have first priority. They submit all theirs first, and that was usually in like October. We thought about maybe even moving that up for next year. And then I believe in January or February, then the other organizations can come in and ask if there's anything available. I think the 12 months was more on the 5Ks, things like that, events, but not the fields.
Okay, that's helpful. There was a mention of a tier system, but I never was able to locate any documents.
Yeah, we always did like Maya and 4 County first, since they support the whole town, and those are our town organizations. And then once we decide where they go, and if there's leftover fields, then the other organizations can come in, and that's not until after we decide that.
I remember when Amethyst was chairing the board, that was one of her pet projects, and it was a pretty detailed document. So I will have to look back in my notes and see if I can dig it up. I thought that was what was going to get uncovered, and I apologize, Nancy, that that wasn't available. It may be something that we readdress, but it was a very defined process with timeframes and
correct
laid out. And I'll have to look it up. I would encourage Scott and Drew, if you do have a copy of that, you could forward it to either Nancy or myself. That would be great.
Yeah, I think we start with Nancy, share it with her. But Nancy, as far as what you said for a 12-month, whether the programs have to apply for the spring, then apply for the fall. My preference would be, if we know ahead of time, for example, from a soccer perspective, I know when I want to need it. And it's basic. We start in March and we go through November. So having a timeline when the field's going to be requested, that could be done as part of the original request. But limiting it to the fall sports or spring sports, I don't think that's a good idea to do that personally.
Yeah, and again, Scott, I think the 12 months was when we had events like 5Ks. I think that's when that was established. That doesn't have anything to do with the sports fields.
Well, yeah,
the fields we scheduled for the whole year.
Right. Well, Nancy mentioned that, and I just want to make sure that I'm glad you're chiming in, Drew, because that's 100% right. I agree with what you're saying. And Nancy, as far as the Renegades, what you can tell them for the fall, we just don't have fields available.
Right.
Okay.
That's that's the reality, and especially with losing some of the fields, you know, because of the situation we're in, we most certainly do not have any room.
Yeah, I did indicate that to them, and I told them I would be speaking with the board today and, you know, see if there was any possibility, but I'll just let them know that.
Hey Nancy, quick, the softball that wants the fields, is that a Mount Airy organization or somebody outside?
They do have a Mount Airy address affiliated with their club.
What's the club? What is
It's
the
called
club?
Rogue. It's called Rogue. I believe it's for very small children, like 8 and under. So they were only requesting a 3-hour slot on Sunday. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to do the morning slot before that was needed by Fort County. Fort County prefers to have Sunday after 1. So I'm hoping that perhaps Rogue can go in the mornings.
No, I'm just asking because we had okay, so it's a brand new organization then, in other words. It's not part of
Yes,
like mayor or somebody or Fort, okay.
that's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions or anything else I should be mentioning?
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So is it okay then, Drew, if I just, and Mike, if I just reach out to you next week and see if, get more direction on that tier schedule?
Yes.
Sure. I think I may have it somewhere too. I'll look as well, Mike. But I know you're right. We had a whole document of priority list and when we when each organization could request the fields. So I think I may have it somewhere, but I'll look as well.
Okay, thank you.
We had a concern this year, though, with organizations overinflating their numbers. Does that system address that issue?
It did not. That was kind of an addition that we put on after the fact. And last year with that individual meeting, we had discussed getting initial numbers to do the initial allocations and then checking back. And I'm not sure where that check back process, you know, is that something that we're asking Nancy to do now, or is that something that, you know, as a board, we need to reach out to the individual teams once they have their finalized roster? I know that that meeting of getting everybody together at Town Hall last year, I think was a very positive event that kind of ironed a lot of things out. But I don't know that we ever got the finalized numbers, and then COVID happened.
I thought we got the finalized numbers because we got the finalized number of teams and we said reallocating the fields.
And then who's responsible for that? Is that, you know, is that Nancy, you know, reallocating, or is this something that we need to address as a group in a meeting once we have those numbers back?
It would be helpful to me if you could provide me some direction. I have been attempting to contact the different teams and get, you know, specific information on what types of field usage they need, but I don't feel that I always get accurate responses.
But I thought that kind of the consensus was that we would, so nobody should be reserving fields for the spring and summer now anyways, right? And then we open that up in the fall at a certain time. And then if need be, we would come back together with the organizations to talk it out again. I think all the representatives from those organizations thought that that was a time well spent, kind of a think tank. I thought we kind of had already reached consensus about that for spring allocation of fields, but maybe I'm just being hopeful and remembering things like the rose-colored glasses.
I think the underlying process was that tiered allocation system. We'd get everybody's initial requests. We would rank them based on the tiers, and then the addition to the whole plan was getting them all together, and that eliminated a lot of the back and forth. That eliminated, you know, we were expecting the groups to, you know, to communicate together, and wherever there was conflict, they would work it out, and we forced the issue by getting them in Town Hall. So I think that's a continued part of the process. The only thing that I'm a little fuzzy on is everything is based off of, what we're anticipating, and then the final numbers is where, we've had a number of representatives from these groups say, if we're not using that particular field at that time, we're more than happy to give it up to another organization so the field isn't lying dormant. And that's where I think Nancy really comes in, because she's going to be handling those last minute swaps, just to validate that it's okay and it doesn't impact another organization. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and I think it did work that way. Where Maya and Fort County came in, and they did give us our numbers, and then that other baseball organization had some time. We gave it to them.
You got a feedback loop here.
Yeah,
Actually, it was American Legion and Maya and Maryland Sliders that came in. We didn't ever receive any information.
I think if everybody mutes except for the speaker for just a second, it's going to stop the reverb for a minute.
Who's meeting host right now? Can they take care of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You should be able to unmute yourself now when you speak.
Is there anything?
What I suggest, I suggest if Nancy's having difficulty with the sports representatives, that we help her out from the standpoint of whether we invite all the representatives to meet Nancy, or myself or someone who knows the organizations gets together with Nancy and the reps so she can make the acquaintance and get a plan together. Because if they're not responding to you, Nancy, then that's on them.
Yeah, good idea.
And I also, one more comment too would be in the spring when we got together, there was one organization who told us that they had 4 teams that needed 90-foot fields. And then we all got together for that workshop. And it turned out that they had either 0 or 1 team, and they never told us about it. So I feel like that's a data point that we need to keep track of going forward, so that if that happens again with that same organization, then we're going to know right off, because we haven't had that same workshop for the fall. So if that same organization, for all we know, because we haven't gotten it as the board, Nancy has gotten the data. If that same organization requested for 4 teams worth of fields again, and then they only have 1 team in actuality again, then we're going to need to factor that in moving in future years, that when a certain organization tells us 4 teams, they really mean 1 or something like that. So we ought to keep track of this going forward, I think.
Good point. All right.
I guess I'm still stuck on, we did that comprehensive meeting once, and it went okay, but for something to really stick and to become part of a culture or a community, you need to do it multiple times. So my recommendation would be that we cut off the ability to reserve fields in the spring and summer right now. We have time. We open back up on a certain date in the late fall, winter.
That's the way the process works, and that's what we're going to come back with next week.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
And then meet again.
Absolutely, the way you're discussing it. It comes up in October-ish. We have that new meeting that in the spring, it kind of finalizes it, and then the fields are allocated for the entire year, and we rehash it, right?
Yeah. I just still feel like it's not, for you, Nancy, to be alone with those players in the room. I still think we're at a point where those who are available go to that meeting, and we sit down together and we still try to figure it out, because we have not perfected the process yet, and we all need knowledge of that to make really good decisions moving forward for the following year. So that's my input on that.
Yeah, and I think that is the process. We're not just doing it one time. We're doing exactly what you suggested. We want to meet in the spring again with that same group, because we eliminated a lot of the kind of back and forth delay and the backfighting that we saw in previous years. And it didn't, drop it onto somebody like Drew or Scott to play play referee. We got everybody in the same room, and all of a sudden we were getting information, like Ryan says, that that was more truthful. It wasn't estimates, it was the actual thing. So yeah, I think that's a really good comment. But let's take a look next week. I will get back to Nancy, and hopefully I and Drew will get back to Nancy with what that previous documentation is, what that process is. We can bring it back. So she's got something to work off of, but we bring it back at the next meeting. And then see if it needs to be revised and include formally include that spring meeting in there as an annual reoccurrence. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Thank you, Timmy.
Move on to Windy Ridge mountain bike trails. Do we have an update on that process?
We don't, but I wanted to keep it on the agenda. Patrick Ellis did reach out and said he didn't have any updates, but he would keep us informed as he did obtain more information.
Okay. Yeah, I think it should stay on the agenda. Thanks. Moving on to the projects worksheet. I want to thank everybody for all of the input, and I'm sorry to keep bugging you to fill in and do your ratings, but I think we have a very good basis to keep things prioritized. When we have these discussions, we can refer to it for like an overall, like a number of individuals here have said, you want to have this kind of 30,000 foot view of where this particular project fits into our overall plan. And I believe Heather made a comment earlier about you don't want this small thing to impact that larger project. So it's good to have an overall view. And I would propose that we keep it going and just keep on updating it as we get additional information. I would like to fill in the board on a couple of bits of information that I got over the last couple of weeks that are on the spreadsheet now, but I just want to bring them up in this discussion. And if anybody else has any additional ones, as we come up with new information or as it impacts some project, we just track it and put it on here. In particular, I already mentioned lifespan, and we got lifespan and estimated pricing for fencing. That'll be important for future projects. The merry-go-round at Prospect Park, I got some additional information on that that may impact some of your ratings. One of the concerns about returning it to East West Park was that the existing concrete base has been removed, and it's going to require a new pour. Whether we do it there or at the new at a different location. The suggestion was that because of all of the water management that was done there, and finally that the mulch base there has been relatively dry, that it would be better suited to have some other 12 by 12 playground structure replace the merry-go-round and consider the alternate location in East West Park. So I'm just bringing that to the board. That is, a comment from the people that maintain it and in the maintenance department. So basically, it requires a two cubic yards of concrete to set that merry-go-round. That would be dumped into that base there, where we were having water issues. So next item on the list was Prospect Park and the pickleball shade. Just or replacing the damaged pickleball fencing. Just I made a comment earlier about how over time the metal chain link fencing sags. So it's something that we can expect to do at just about all of our facilities. And I did take a look at it on the far side up towards the maintenance shed, and there's significant bulges in that fencing. So I understand why it's on the list. It's beyond their ability to come in and tighten it up to get it taut again. So that's a comment on that one. I don't know if there's any. I have a number of other comments. If anybody has any particular item that they want to bring up, I don't want to dominate this. I can include comments that have come from town or other sources. If you have a particular item that you want to focus on at this meeting, there's way too much to cover the entire spreadsheet, but I will have distributed later in this week, maybe the beginning of next week, the summarized listing of all of your ratings, just so that it might spark some further discussion on how you've determined these different projects' rate and priority.
Hey, Mike,
Yep.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I think when we have that line that says grant source, since some of our money seems to be coming out of, wherever that parking lot came from, I&I or whatever it is, or is it coming out of us or beautification or a combination, I think that would be helpful to have those lines filled in as well. So we can kind of get an idea on where that's coming from, or is it a shared expense?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, if it's not coming out of our budget, then, we should know about it, but we should also, understand that, like, some of these larger projects on here, are really contingent on us getting a grant.
Yeah.
I mean, we can say that we want to have, the trails west of Main Street, but until that deal gets done with CSX, we don't, it's just a line item there.
Yeah.
So, that's a good point. Anybody have anything that they want to focus on or really bring to the fore because you feel strongly about it?
Hey, Mike, not feel strongly, but Prospect Park, it looks like a lot of things are on the list for Prospect. Is it time to maybe reconsider a complete redo or update of Prospect via state grant money or POS money or something maybe?
I think it was just 2 years ago that Brian made that his yearly focus to update it. I was under the impression that we were in a really good shape with Prospect.
Oh, I'm fine. I mean, I'm just looking at like the pavilion and another playground to update to replace the existing structure.
No, it's a good point.
Yeah, I'm just a thought. I mean, try and get the state to pay for some of it too, if they can.
I don't know how that falls within our
grant cycle.
Yeah, since we're split between different counties there, and we'd have to talk with Gina a little bit more about how we're falling in there, and that would be one of those things that we might apply for in the future. I know I'm a big fan of the new pavilions. If you've been over there and sat underneath that pavilion at Summit Ridge, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Nobody has any other. If not, I will discuss the options that were laid out for Summit Ridge ball field. No.
Did Brian ever come back with some thoughts on how to address that, Mike?
Yeah, so the 3 items that were on the list, there was item 14 on the project list, and there was three potential mitigations Remember, there was a problem with on the 90-foot field balls being fouled and directly into the adjacent field, causing potential for for injury of players if there was the fields were being used at the same time. And what brought it really to the fore was a comment from a resident behind that had some balls appear in his yard. So there was 3 suggested options. One was reorienting the field, so rotating it roughly 90 degrees. The batter's box was closer to the entrance, so it would be basically a parallel orientation to the other field. I do have numbers on that, approximate numbers. It's roughly $130,000 for that option. About $100K of that would be grading, because the entire field would need to be regraded, and then the fencing would cost about another $30,000. So that is option 14.3. 14.2 is reallocating the batter's box roughly 50 feet to the west. Right now, you're at roughly 305 feet to the fence and 300 feet where the batter is currently batting. And it's about 300-foot minimum is what I'm told for a 14-plus league to play. If you would move it 50 feet, you wouldn't be able to play there in a 14-plus league. You'd remove the short infield play. The entire field would be shortened. There is no possibility to remove that fence and extend in the same orientation because of the slope, and we're actually not sure about the ownership of the property beyond the woods. So I don't have a number on that, and I would open that up to the baseball people to comment on what I just said. I don't even know if that's really an option. If we were, it's not a 90-foot field at that point, and we remove one of our only 90-foot options.
Yeah, and that 90 is the field it seems like we need the most. So I don't think that's an option.
And then the last one, 14.1, was upgrading the poles, nets, and/or backstop. Got a rough number on that one. The estimate is for $20,000, and then maybe an additional $1,000 for planting some evergreens along the property line to further mitigate anything that happens to get through. But the plan would be installing concrete footings instead of the existing wooden poles. Would be concrete footings with secure bolt-anchored metal poles attached to go up at least as high as the existing, and then stainless steel cabling that would allow the netting to go up over top. Now that's very similar to what is there or what was used in the past. However, there would be additional netting that would extend down the other line and also over top of the existing batting cage. There was some research done by town maintenance on whether they could get a company like Long Fence to come in and replace the entire backstop. That was one of the options, based on what he's getting from just, again, a rough preliminary bid. Long Fence wouldn't touch that because of the additional length that would have to be extended and the possibility of the structure falling down, the amount of reinforcement that it would take. They wouldn't take it on. So that's just a rough idea there. If we would want something in a reinforced or a larger backstop to be done by, we would have to put that out to bid. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment. We can get more information and maybe some designs so that we could discuss it more fully. But that's what I have so far.
So what was Brian Johnson's input? What was his thoughts?
That was his input. As
Oh,
somebody,
all those, but I mean, what did he think was the most feasible? Or
his
didn't he
plan,
say?
his plan, if he could do it, would be the $20,000 option.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
But again, we're just kind of ballparking things here. I mean, I think it's important to have a rough estimate of how much things would cost, so you can, really determine whether an option is even possible. I don't know that $130,000 is anywhere in our budget to be found.
No, would rather spend that on a new field.
And even besides cost, I imagine the better fencing could be done way, way, way faster and barely affect the field usage.
That's a great point. That was one of the points that was brought up about, how much time we would lose on that field by totally redoing it. Right. If there's no other comments on that, I'll keep on pushing forward to see if we can get more information on that one option, maybe as something distributed to the group.
Yeah, I would say if I had to go to council to ask money for it, 14.1 would probably be the best option.
Right.
For it. And as Ryan said, if we did anything else, it would take a field out for at least one to 2 seasons probably, which is unacceptable.
Okay, a couple other updates. I know this is running long, so I'm going to fill in a couple more updates, and then if anybody has anything else on this, we'll just continue on with it next meeting. The tennis court at Village Gate, we had reinforced the slab and resurface as 17.1 and 17.2. The immediate mitigation of sealing the cracks. The sealing the cracks is already scheduled by the maintenance department, so they've got that taken care of. The better, the long-term fix of totally redoing the underlying structure with a new 4-inch pour of concrete and then re-asphalting it. That's an $80,000 number, and that's updated on the spreadsheet. The parking area and the asphalt topping and the roping at Village Gate. Again, at the last meeting, we just had a rough covering down there, and we said, it would be nice to have that whole area cabled off. Well, that's all been done. So that whole parking area has got a covering of asphalt. The rest of the road is just a loose, crushed asphalt, reground asphalt, but it's still durable. The only other thing on that line item would be if we need to make that ADA accessible and have signage there. I'm told from town maintenance that the line across that was restricting people from coming in and parking there has been opened up, because now there's cabling all around it. But I haven't double checked that to be sure. The next item is replacing the fencing at Bryson Field. We had a section that was damaged. Do we have any input on that one?
I think, yeah, I do, Mike. I know Jason brought that to our attention. So replacing that would definitely have council approval, if you will.
Okay, some feedback on that. And I would, again, defer to people that play on there. I don't play soccer on there. But the comment was, based on the location of the 2 missing sections, 2 or 3 missing sections, that it would be literally impossible to fire a ball out through that opening. And that the preference was to just remove those poles and never put fencing there.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Well, I think
I'm going off of what I'm being told.
Yeah.
So
I think what Brian Johnson also said, that was his recommendation, because I asked him about the same thing. The location, it's hard to get the balls up over the hill. But what was causing the damage to the fencing was the mowers were sliding down the hill into the fencing.
Correct. And
So
the
if we
concern is
replace
that
it-
might happen again.
Yeah. If we replace it, it's just money wasted. That portion, I'm not saying it's not needed further down.
So, I mean, that's the feedback from people that are maintaining it.
Yeah.
I would like a counter argument from the people that are actually
Using
kicking balls on it. Because if they say that it's going to go into somebody's yard or it's going to go into the street, then maybe we need to keep this line item on there.
Hey, I'll take a ride over there tomorrow and take a look at it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Swing set at Wildwood Park. I got more information on that. Be $5,000 estimated cost if you put a 2-bay swing set in there. That's roughly the same type of swing set that is at Summit Ridge. Not the full, I think they have like 6 swings there. This would be just a 2-bay section. That's 4 foot by 10. And based on code, the safety surface that needs to extend beyond it is twice the length of the length of the swing chain. So the overall area would be 10 foot by 24 foot. That would be covered. So that would be $5,000 for that. That's $2,000 for a swing. And then the additional $3,000 is labor, concrete, and mulch. I know that what we had was something just hanging off of that wooden castle. So I don't know if that's what people, were thinking or whether there's something different.
I was never really told, Mike. I just had the request to replace it. So I was probably thinking they were expecting something that you just described, more of a better swing set. And I think Brian was saying, trying to replace on something similar to the pirate ship type was not feasible because it was rocking the whole ship, I think, when the kids really got rolling. So
he said that $5,000 for that concrete is not just individual pours at each one of the poles. The way they're installing all of their swing sets, because they did the one at Summit Ridge as well, is they pour a full concrete pad underneath that connects the poles, so it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the cost there for $5,000, and that's for our town staff to do it.
Oh, okay.
An update on the water feature, since that is something that Brian is really interested in. He is working with the beautification on that one to reuse and reallocate the plantings that are there in the butterfly garden, because the fountain won't just be a fountain. At least his plan is to not have just a fountain there, but to have it then surrounded by, the fountain's just in the middle. It would be solar powered, the pump would be solar powered, and he doesn't have to plumb any water to it. The existing basin for the water would just go there and fill it up when necessary. The town maintenance would do that, and then the solar power would take care of pumping it, not like the one at the pop-up park where it's actually spraying out, but kind of just dripping down over like a center sculpture, like rock sculpture. And that's his vision. It was already approved and in the budget for next year. And he's working with beautification on that. And then the last thing that I'm not too clear on is the footbridge at Watkins Park. Since I know it was canceled because we couldn't work out the details with orientation. Can you correct me on that, Gina? That was something that was a regulation issue?
You kind of faded out on part of that. So the one thing though is we had originally applied for a grant to cover that, but we had to retract that because we couldn't provide all the design information they wanted in advance.
If I recall correctly, they wanted it kind of oriented a little bit at a different angle. And is that correct?
Yeah, that's kind of what we had described, that it would seem like it would be more in line with the current trail would be more logical. But you do
Okay.
have an argument that if you're coming down the hill, it should be oriented more like it is. So that
Well,
is open for discussion.
The only input that I have on that is town maintenance indicated that they were working on an estimate for an 8-foot wide bridge option that wouldn't include as much of the arch of the existing one. No designs have been given, but the idea that with it being 8-foot wide, that that eliminates the code necessity for any type of railings on it, and that would eliminate some of the problems with safety. So I don't. That's all I have on that one. I don't have any design, any cost, just that there's something being done to work on getting something for us to take a look at in the future. That's all I have, unless anybody has anything else that they want to add or point out. All right. Move on to our updated, I think we already covered the concerns at Summit Ridge Baseball Field, or is there anything additional there? I think we covered that. So right on to upcoming events.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I am so glad that we have a list of events to come up with now. It's been a while. Our first thing that's going on is Hometown Heroes banner applications are now being accepted. You can reach out to Town Hall or go onto our website or email Melissa Thorne at mthorne@mountairymd.gov for more information. So please submit those as you have them. The national anthem will be played on Main Street Fridays at noon. I know we had our live last week and we had a lot of people view it. So please, if you have time, take a moment. The Mount Airy Baptist Church will have a movie night, and they will be featuring Overcomer at Watkins Park on August 21st at dusk. I will be leading a nature hike this Saturday from 10 to 12 with a local Boy Scout troop. So we have about 10 folks that are coming out to have a hike and deal with some invasives in our park. So that's really exciting. We have our farmers market every Wednesday at 3. It's been very well attended even with COVID. So I highly recommend if you have time or you need fresh produce that you swing by. Masks are required as well as hand washing and social distancing. I Heart Mount Airy will be next Wednesday at noon. We had our first one last month. This will be a new broadcast that the town is putting together. Every month we'll highlight community spotlights, businesses, town updates, and other information. So catch us the last Wednesday at noon. The mayor will be hosting a community forum on August 29th at 11 at our new Simpson Baker Bolus pop-up park. So please, if you would like to have some time to talk to the mayor about current projects, concerns, questions, or anything else, you can join him at 11 a.m. on the 29th. We have Brews at the Bank, which is a new fundraiser that's hosted by Ava's T21, fundraising for our Watkins Park Playground. Our first Brews at the Bank are going to be on August 30th, and that's going to be really neat. She's teaming up with Core Yoga and some local breweries, so you'll be able to do yoga in the morning and then hang out in the park. Masks are required, social distancing. There will not be a large amount of chairs, so we recommend people bring their chairs, set up at a nice distance from their neighbors, and enjoy the outdoors. Let's see, Restaurant Week was postponed from spring and now is coming to a new fall date, September 14th through the 20th. Town staff is working to coordinate with restaurants throughout the area to highlight special menus, options, and ways that we can support them, especially during these hard times. So again, September 14th through the 20th, please mark your calendars and plan to eat out. Wednesday, or Weed Warriors Day, we had our first successful Weed Warrior last month. Or this month. It's blurring together now. Mike, thank you for attending. We had about 6 folks, July, see, it's all blending. But we had about 6 folks attend that, and we did some education on invasives and started looking at the trail and how we can start kind of winning the war against those in our park. And from that event actually spurred the Boy Scout troop coming this Saturday. So that's really exciting. We have the first ever Mount Airy Duck Race on September 27th. This is a partnership between the Rotary, the town, and our fire department, fundraising for scholarship funds and for our fire department. We are going to have 3,000 ducks that will be released and raced in multiple heats. They'll receive $1,000. Get those ducks. You'll also see popping up around town quack attacks, which if you go to the Rotary website, you can get information about that, and you can quack attack a neighbor. Each of those is a donation to the cause and for this fundraiser. So it's a fun way for everyone to kind of get active with it. Again, census deadline, September 30th. So please make sure you are counted. That is very vital to our town receiving funds. So the more that people that get counted, the more funds that we can have for our town from our tax dollars. So I think that's all of our upcoming events. Did I miss anything, Gina?
I think you got them all. Thank you. The one thing about the
Great.
restaurant week, you can win $500 once you turn in your receipt. So make sure you support our restaurants.
Dine to win.
That's right. Dine to win.
The Weed Warriors Day on the 19th. Ashley, what time is that? Saturday,
I think that one is also at 10 a.m.
Okay. Thanks.
And please, for those if folks have trimmers or gloves, please do bring tools. If you go onto our website, there's information about that under Weed Warriors. It talks about the program, why we're doing it, some information about if you're getting service hours, and the program in general. But I do request that folks bring gloves, clippers, any tools that they may want to use for trimming back things. We have some that we can loan, but now with COVID, people really need to bring gloves if possible.
So that is on World Cleanup Day?
It is.
Yes.
You know it's also International Talk Like a Pirate Day? Just a heads up there.
No.
Then
Arg.
maybe I'll give eye patches out to everyone that volunteers.
You could theme it, you know, some of those plants are pretty, they have stickers, you know, you might protect them well.
I like
And
Mike.
it seems like it's a long way off, but that movie night is actually tomorrow night. So if you'd like to join the Mount Airy Baptist Church, the movie night at Watkins Park, we do have some volunteers on the board. Thank you for volunteering to help set up that movie screen.
There's also another movie, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I met with Dan Horzabri today, and they are hosting a fundraiser for the fire department on, I think, September 6th. I don't have it in front of me at this moment, but if you go onto their website, they are selling tickets. He said there's 300 tickets for that event, and they're about half sold. So there'll be food trucks available, and 100% of that goes to the fire department. So I would encourage people to check that out as well. That's September 6th.
Hey, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
The Dan Harabi one, he's using his own equipment, or is the town supplying the movie equipment, or how's that?
I'm not sure. Gina, do you know if he's reached out to us? He didn't mention that when I interviewed him today.
He has his own equipment.
Okay, cool. That's so we can actually show up and enjoy it then, and not have to work there.
Yep.
Do you have tomorrow covered, Gina, for the movie night? Do you need additional people there?
We may. Nancy, she's been organizing that. Are you still on the line, Nancy?
Yes, actually, Carl, thank you very much for coming tomorrow. And Larry Hushauer is going to be there, and Gina and myself. So I think we're okay with that. But Mike, I do have a question for you. I noticed when I was reading the minutes that you indicated that sometimes that movie equipment needs a specific type of DVD, and that we need to have a laptop backup. Could you advise me what specific type of DVD it uses?
It doesn't use Blu-ray. It's an older equipment, so just a standard DVD, and you should be good. But it's always great to have a backup. If they've already delivered and we can talk offline.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. I think that's the end of section 9, upcoming events. That only leaves 10.
That's your favorite.
Right. Is everybody muted?
Drew?
I can't do anything, so somebody else.
Sorry, I was dealing with my dog. I motion to adjourn.
Second, third, fourth, fifth. They're all in favor.
It's a long one, people. Thank you very much.
Stay safe, everybody.
Good meeting, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again. 9:07.